Hello everyone, this video is on breathing in the spinal cord. So your spinal cord is the main information highway of communication between your brain, central nervous system, and all of the cells. There are 6 major zones of the body, and they relate to 6 nerve plexi, or bundles of nerves that come out of the spinal cord that help to innervate local glands as well as the local regions of the body. So this is your legs, your pelvis, your core, your chest and arms, your neck, and then your head. These relate to the coccygeal plexus, the sacral, the lumbar, the dorsal, the cervical, and the medullary. How does this relate to breathing? So your breath is one of the primary oscillators in the body, meaning that the rhythmic inhale and exhale forms a looping rhythm that sets a tone for the whole system to work off of. You change the oscillations, the rate of your breathing, and it's going to have system-wide effects. Say you speed it up, it's going to stimulate the system. Say you slow it down, it's going to slow the system down. There's an optimal state of breathing for different activities. Exercise, you want a more activated state. If you want to move more into healing, rest, and digestion, you'd want a slower pace. So this central oscillator of the breath is helping to coordinate the nervous system, which is the prime initiator of the signals of the body, which are sent through the spinal cord. Now, it's not simply the oscillations or the rate of the breathing, it's where we breathe into. So ideally, we can breathe from our pelvic floor, and our belly begins to expand about 2/3 in our breathing, and then 1/3 in the chest. This expansion will cause an opening, because when we inhale, everything opens up. What also happens at the level of the spine is we get spinal extension. So there's a little space that's created in between all of your 33 spinal vertebrae, especially when we breathe properly and full. Then as you exhale, there's a relaxing of the major diaphragms, a slight flexion of the spine, and then a little contractive force, expansion and contraction of the joint spaces. This regular movement helps to move fluid in and out of these joints, synovial fluid, as well as the cerebral spinal fluid that flows through the central column. This is important and necessary for the communication of the nerves and the signals that are being sent, the innervated signals that are being sent to your glands. So it's like, hey, we have our pancreas, which is an endocrine gland. How does this pancreas function? Is it regulated? Is there overproduction, underproduction? Well, that depends on a number of things. We have an influence from our diet, what we eat, but also our body is always trying to self-regulate. It's always trying to have homeostasis or balance. Now, it's going to be really hard for the body to have balance without the proper conditions. Most people know that they need a certain amount of exercise in order for the body to keep its balance. Same thing with the breathing. It needs a certain amount of exercise with the breathing, or a proper way of breathing that helps to run the system properly. So this breathing is the full breathing from the whole system, from the bottom of the coccyx all the way up as we breathe into the chest, even the throat, everything opens up, and this is going to help that information to move through the spinal vertebrae. So if you're not breathing properly, we're not getting a nice expansion and contractive force. Say that's happening in the abdomen. Then all these nerves down here aren't receiving that expansion and contraction, which means all the fluid and all the information that is trying to be sent from the brain down into these lower regions doesn't have an opportunity to have proper communication, and we can get dysregulation. Now, this can be at the level of the hormones. So it can also be at the level of the local regions of the body, not getting enough nerve connection, mind-body awareness. So if you have any imbalances, injuries, etc., you can get a sense for where they're in the body, and then move up the spine and get a sense for where they might be connected to. And you can also check in with the breathing and seeing if that's off pace. So there's a number of different things we can look to when looking to rebalance the system holistically in this way. Now, just because you have an injury at a local region doesn't mean it's always at the local region, because our body is holographic, meaning that everything affects everything else. An imbalance in one region will affect all other parts of the body. So the final piece I like to share about the breathing is we can get blockages in our breathing that aren't simply a function of, you're not breathing well. What does that relate to? It relates to physical, if there's any tightness in the body, stress held, injuries. It could be emotional, and it could be mental. So you might notice when you get stressed, you probably don't breathe as deep. Maybe you even hold your breath every once in a while. If you're holding in a lot of emotion, or if you're really caught in thoughts and not so much in the body, once again, not breathing so well. So our breathing is very much has a relationship with our physical, emotional, and mental health. Now, over time, stress at any level, physical, emotional, and mental, will manifest as blockages in the system. So this is just a broad term for anything that's causing a holding, a contraction, an area of the body where things aren't flowing. So this might be in the spine. You might have a blockage along your spinal column. This might be holdings in your diaphragm that prevent you from taking those nice full breaths. The diaphragm wants to be able to inhale and move down, at least the central diaphragm and the thoracic, wants to move down and then relax on the exhalation. Now, if you have a lot of stress in your body, your diaphragms won't function properly. They will have a sense of being tight and held. So these holdings, these blockages, can manifest at different levels of your body systems, your body and your mind. Now, when you have a blockage, say in your spine, your diaphragms, wherever they might be, once again, the information that's coming through the spinal cord is not going to be able to properly communicate with all those cells, and it's going to be quite easy for those local regions to become dysregulated. As I mentioned before, any dysregulation in one part of the body, say the pancreas, is going to affect the stomach and other regions of the body as they try to digest food and don't have the proper hormones created by the pancreas. So what happens with breathwork therapy, why it's a beautiful holistic tool and an adjunct or a beautiful therapy, is to rebalance our breathing system, because our breathing system relates to our physical, emotional, and mental. We can clear out blockages in our mind, we can remove unprocessed emotion and trauma from the system, as well as open into different areas of the body through the expansions of the breath. So when we restore the natural rhythm of breathing, it's going to help to coordinate the nervous system, its central tone as a primary oscillator, and we can remove any of the blockages that are causing the imbalances, and this is going to relate to system-wide better health, better improvements in your mind and body. So what does this practice look like? Generally coming to see somebody one-on-one who's trained in trauma therapy with their breath work, as well as a good understanding of the body mechanics, the diaphragms of the body is optimal. Just doing some pranayama or gentle breathing won't necessarily get at some of the deeper blockages individuals might hold, because it's a less targeted way of working. But of course, anytime you connect with your breath, you're going to see improvements in your body, mind, and emotion, because the flow of your breathing is directly related to how you're thinking and feeling. Your capacity to fully clarify the breath or bring it back into its proper mechanics depends on your practice and training, but anyone has the opportunity to be able to connect with their breath even as they're watching this and make some improvements in the oscillations or the rate of your breathing. Ideally, we want to breathe 5 to 10 times a minute. Most people breathe around 15 to 20. And changing the depth of our breathing so that we're breathing into our lower abdomen 2/3 and then our upper chest 1/3. So this and many other parts of your breathing system will benefit your life in profound ways. And there's something also that I love about breathwork is that when you go to see many other therapists, which can be a part of your process, they're often doing the healing work for you. They're doing the manipulations, they're doing a lot of the changing from the outside, and this is an important part of many people's process, but the breath is something an individual like myself works with you, and you're the one doing the work because you're the one doing the breathing. So you're activating a tool that's within you, and it's very empowering on your journey to be able to have a tool within you, because the more you learn the basics of how to rebalance your system with the breath, there's a certain point when you no longer need the breath therapist to help you out. You can go off on your own and create a lot of these rebalancing yourself. And there's something, in Qigong they call that the qi, the breath, has an intelligence to it. It knows where it needs to go. So there's something that also happens along the breathwork journey, that individuals come in contact with this sense of empowerment, but on another level, this sense of intelligence that comes with doing breathwork. And I can speak to a lot of the science in what I've already spoken to, but that's a little bit more mysterious in how that all functions. So I won't touch on that, but I'll allude to it there. So, quick recap. We have our breathing, a central oscillator that sets a tone for our whole system-wide functioning. We have our spinal cord, the information highway of the body. We have 6 major nerves that help to innervate the 6 major zones of the body, as well as the glands and other local regions and organs, etc. Ideally, we have a nice full breath that begins in the pelvic floor, low belly, and then 2/3 the abdomen, 1/3 of the chest. The regular opening and expansion, especially with a straight spine, helps to create space between all the 33 vertebrae, which helps the proper fluid exchange as well as the nerve conductions to innervate the glands and to send those signals so that the body can find its homeostasis or balance. Any imbalance in the breathing system or blockages mentally, emotionally, physically will be held in the body, ultimately manifested as tensions. We can release those tensions with our intention, with our breath, with certain breathwork practices, as well as interdisciplinary help with other health professionals. Thank you for watching. I Om.